Hey YouTube, this is Alexander, and earlier today, Apple finally unveiled the much rumored and much leaked iPhone 7 and 7 Plus. So today I'm going to give you my thoughts on what I think about some of the design changes and updates to the iPhone line, and sort of talk about what's new. Now, if I mention the iPhone 7, I'm talking about both of them unless I say otherwise, since there are some differences between the two. But anyway, with that confusion out of the way, let's go ahead and get started. So the first new major feature is the design. The iPhone 7 is now going to be available in a new jet black and black variant. So the black is more like along the lines of the existing silver, gold, and rose gold, which are also still going to be available, of course. But the jet black is something of a high gloss, and it's probably going to be much more slippery. It's the one that people are probably a little bit more excited for, since it is a departure from the existing texture and material than the previous iPhones, and it does look pretty nice. Now, everybody seems to be going really crazy about the new black colors, and to me, honestly, they look really nice, especially the jet black, but it's nothing that I'm getting super crazy or super hyped up about. We've had black phones in years past. That was pretty much all we had the option of, and then they didn't go away, but they became less old or less tiresome because there were new colors available in phones. And then Apple brought back a black phone, and people seem to be really excited about it, and it's not super exciting for me, but the jet black does look super nice. So the next new feature is the home button. So Apple axed the click to press button, and it now works similar to what's in the MacBook's trackpad, the 12-inch MacBook, where it'll give you a little bit of a vibration haptic feedback once you press it. They also mentioned that this will be able to give you notifications, or that it can vibrate for notifications, and developers can take advantage of that API to get their apps to work with that. The third new feature was water and dust resistance, and I gotta say, it's about time. A lot of Android phones, especially most of the flagship phones that I can think of, have had water and dust resistance IP67 for quite some time now, for a few years. And it's nice to see Apple finally hopping on board, so you can give your phone a bath if you need to, if it gets a little oily or gross, or you get some food on it, and you don't have to worry about dust messing the ports up and stuff like that. Now, the next new feature is the camera. So there's a little bit to talk about here. It's now got OIS in both the 7 and 7 Plus, unlike last year's, where the OIS was only available in the Plus model, which is pretty nice. Now, OIS is basically going to give you better shots in low light, since it'll allow you to have a longer shutter speed time without as much shaking, since OIS is going to help to compensate for that, and it'll reduce the noise since the ISO doesn't have to be bumped up. But enough of that talk. It's got an f1.8 aperture, a 12 megapixel sensor, which they say is going to be faster and more efficient. It's also got an updated two-tone flash, so it's still got two tones, where it's got that cooler tone and then the warmer tone flash, but it now has 4 LEDs to provide even more light when you're using the flash. So this is going to be nice if you like using the flash and you didn't find it sufficient before, or you just wish there was maybe a little bit more light in some occasions. You'll be able to have even more light to take your photos when you're out at night taking photos, which is cool. They also mentioned the inclusion of raw photo taking in the form of DNGs, which is nice, and the front camera has been bumped to 7 megapixels. Now, in the iPhone 7 Plus, there's a couple differences. So everything that I mentioned is available in both, but the iPhone 7 Plus has 2 12 megapixel sensors. So one of them is going to be a wide angle lens, but you're going to get a little bit more in the picture when you take a photo, which is nice. And the other camera that's coupled with it is going to be telephoto. So basically what it's going to do is going to provide 2 times optical zoom. So you'll be able to zoom in without losing a bunch of detail or making the photo grainy up to 2 times. And then everything after 2x, they're going to let you go to 5x, and then 10x will be digital zoom. It's pretty cool that they're adding optical zoom. Now, the design of that looks a little weird. I never really liked a dual camera system. It just looks kind of weird, and I know you're looking at this right here and saying, what about that black bar? That's somewhat worse than having just 2 cameras up there. I don't know, the black bar kind of grew on me. Maybe if I had a phone with dual cameras, that would grow on me too, but just every time I see a press photo of a phone with 2 cameras, it just looks kind of weird to me, and that's the same with the iPhone 7 Plus, but the jet black doesn't look too bad, since it kind of looks a little bit more sleek. So the next new feature would be the display, which Apple dubs the Retina HD. Now, the resolutions of both are still going to be the same as last year's and the years before, but they're going to be 25% brighter than last year's iPhone, which is nice if you're outdoors. And they invited somebody up from Instagram to talk about a new filter, which is going to allow whatever you post to Instagram using that filter from the iPhone 7 to just look a little bit more true to what it looked like on the iPhone. I guess minus the Instagram compression, but that's a conversation for another day. So the Retina HD display basically is supposed to look a little bit brighter. So the next new feature comes in the audio department. So they've now added another speaker to provide stereo speaker sound, which is pretty nice actually. They've added one on the top and they've still got the existing one on the bottom, which is really cool. So it's going to be twice as loud as previous iPhones, but it shouldn't have the problems of distortion from being twice as loud. So the next new feature comes in the form of the EarPods. So the leaks and rumors of Apple axing the headphone jack were true. So we're not having a headphone jack anymore in the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus and probably going forward. Instead, you're going to be using either wireless, which I'll get to in a second, AirPods, or you're going to be using the Lightning jack that's on the bottom of the iPhone to power your Lightning earpods. So the Lightning earpods are actually going to come in the box with your iPhone 7 and 7 Plus, so you don't have to worry about going out and buying them if you don't want to, and they're even going to be nice enough to include an adapter for your older earpods. Say you just like using the 3.5mm headphone jack, or you've got a different set of earphones, you can go ahead and use those still with the little adapter. Now the next feature, which sort of ties in with the last one, is wireless. So now they've got AirPods. So AirPods are essentially the same thing as earpods, except they're wireless. So you're not going to have a cable anymore. You're just going to have this little thing kind of sticking out of your head. It looks like a little bit of a Bluetooth device that some people still use, but that was pretty popular a couple years ago. It looks a little bit more futuristic. I actually like the way they look, and earpods, in my experience, have been really comfortable for me. So I actually like the idea of AirPods. The specs are basically that they're going to get 5-hour battery life for each earpod. So if you want to use them separately for maybe just Siri or taking calls, you'll get 10 hours total. And if you want to use them together, you'll just get 5 hours. Now it does come with a little case. You'll have a charging case which itself can be charged. Now that case will charge your earpods when they're not in use, and Apple claims that they'll be able to get up to 24 hours of use if you have the case around you so that you can continuously charge them. Now the pairing technique that the Apple says is going to be used is actually pretty cool. You basically just take your earpods out of the box near an iPhone or an Apple Watch, and a prompt will pop up on your Apple Watch or your iPhone and just ask you to connect, and you just hit connect and they're done. You don't have to worry about switches or any toggles or anything like that, which is actually a really cool way to pair a pair of earpods, or should I say AirPods. Now the next feature is Apple Pay. Basically they're just making it available in more regions. They mentioned Japan, since they use a different type of NFC technology. They're going to be able to now use the iPhone for their Pay Pass sort of terminals over in Japan, which is cool. And the last feature is performance. So they mentioned they've got a new A10 Fusion processor, I believe is exclusive to the iPhone 7 Plus. It's 64-bit and it's quad core, so it should be able to pump out much more power. They say that it's 40% faster than the A9. It's got 2 high power cores and 2 low power cores. So things hopefully like just background refreshes should be able to use the low power cores to hopefully preserve battery so that it doesn't have to fire up the higher powered cores. And then things like gaming will use the higher power cores, of course. They also have a new GPU, which is 6 cores, and they mentioned that it's 60% faster than the A9. They also mentioned that you're going to get the longest battery life ever in an iPhone, which again, I should hope is the case with each version of iPhone. We get a little bit better battery life and better performance. So as far as pricing and availability goes, we have the iPhone 7, which starts at $649, unlocked for the 32GB base model. Yes, base model. Apple finally got rid of the terrible 16GB option for the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus. It now starts at 32 gigs and it starts at $649. The iPhone 7 Plus starts at $769, and again, we have a 32GB base model. Now pre-orders start September 9th and it starts shipping September 16th. So this Friday and I believe next Friday is when the two kind of important dates are. iOS 10 is going to be available to all other iPhones September 13th, at least the final version, not the beta. And the AirPods are going to be arriving late October for $159. So what does all this mean for me, or my thoughts on it? I gotta say that I'm not as impressed as I thought I was going to be, actually. I don't know why I had my hopes up a little bit more, but I mean, it's cool. The jet black actually looks really nice. That's probably my most favorite thing that they announced, ironically enough, even though I'm not as crazy about it as some people I've seen on the internet be. It looks nice, but it's nothing that's over the top beautiful. And I'm also kind of interested to see how the no headphone jack plays out. I don't think it's really going to be a big deal. I think people are going to be like, that's fine, I use wireless anyway, or I don't mind using wireless, or I can just use an adapter, use the lightning variant. I thought about you not being able to charge your device while listening to wired headphones, but then again, I thought about how often do you really do that? Me, I don't do that often. I don't know about you. You might do that more often. You charge your phone up while you've got a wired pair of headphones in. Maybe when you're on the go, you've got an external battery, or when you're at home watching videos. But I just found myself to not actually really be charging my phone the same time I'm listening to something with wired headphones. So I don't think it's going to be really a big deal. The Moto Z did it earlier this year. Apple did it now. I guess we'll just have to wait and see what other OEMs do it, maybe from Android. So anyway, that's pretty much it. Overall, it was a solid update. It was evolutionary, definitely. I don't think there was anything that was super revolutionary. Anyway, that's pretty much going to wrap up the video. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe down there for more. And I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.